The race for the next mayor of Minneapolis is off to a controversial start with the DFL endorsement of a Democratic socialist facing scrutiny. A look at what's on the line with the chair of the Minneapolis GOP next. Diane Napper, the chair of the Minneapolis GOP, is my guest. Yes, there is a Republican Party in Minneapolis, but Diane, thank you for being here. Good to see you.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks for having me.
You know, the race for mayor of Minneapolis seems to be off to a controversial start. The DFL held its convention to nominate their Democratic candidate, but controversy still surrounds that nomination and endorsement of mayoral candidate Omar Fateh. He is currently a Minnesota state senator, the first Somali and Muslim elected to the Senate, and now the DFL endorsed candidate for the mayor of Minneapolis. As a leader of the Republican Party in Minneapolis, Diane, what do you think about the DFL convention and the controversy here?
Well, it sounds like there were quite a few shenanigans going on. I've heard different stories, but I think the biggest problem is that perhaps they didn't follow their own rules. You know, conventions are, while people have fun, at them, talking to people, the rules of the convention they matter. And it sounds like the rules were not followed. You can certainly suspend the rules, but there's a process for that. So again, it's like the DFL not caring about the rule of law, even at their own convention. So that is concerning. And I think more people should be aware of it, even though it's just a handful of delegates. They're not the entire city population. But if they're the ones saying that the DFL chooses to endorse a candidate, I don't think it's quite right if it's just that handful and they're not playing fair by their own rules.
So adding to all of this, Omar Fateh is a member of the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. This leads me to this viral video of the state senator where he said his Republican colleagues look like terrorists on the Senate floor.
We heard them being called terrorists. We heard them being called drug dealers. We heard a lot of insults. We heard that they're a threat to our national security. And that's a flat-out lie. You want to know who the real threat is, Madam President? I'll give you a hint. They don't look like our chief author. They don't look like the folks up in the gallery. They don't look like the folks out in the rotunda. They look like many of the members that sit in the front. And you don't have to take my word for it. According to DHS, Madam President, the greatest domestic threat facing the United States comes from, quote, racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocate for the superiority of the white race.
What's your reaction to Fateh, again, a member of the DSA, about these remarks about members of your own party?
You know, it's shameful. People, the DFL or the socialists in particular, seem to want to have a double standard for everything. Can you imagine if a white senator had said the exact same thing about Omar Fateh and his supporters? I know that he was actually, an ethics complaint was filed against him immediately after that speech on the Senate floor. And I think that, I thought we were supposed to tone down the rhetoric. I thought we were supposed to try to get along and be one Minnesota, but that's not where he's coming from, it sounds like.
Fateh has been compared to Zohran Mamdani, a fellow Democratic socialist running for mayor in New York City. For some perspective here, do you think voters are paying attention to Fateh and Mamdani? Do you think how they're aiming to dismantle law enforcement and erase economic freedom is something, their supporters are fully aware that these candidates embrace?
I don't know that their supporters actually understand the full weight of what it is that the Democratic Socialists of America stand for.
Yeah, and we have recent news, hundreds of cars that have been vandalized just in the last couple of weeks in Minneapolis, a few more homicides we've also reported on. It seems a bit strange how Fateh seems really laser focused on fighting President Trump. That's his message, instead of doing the actual work to make Minneapolis better and safer.
I'm baffled by the obsession with Trump. President Trump's only going to be in office for a few more years, but he's, like you said, he's laser focused on it because I think it's like the thing that's shiny that people can, they'll pay attention to that and not really what's really going on. if he wants to be the mayor of Minneapolis, he needs to focus on how he's going to make Minneapolis better, not just by saying increasing public safety, not just by saying improving the schools. I need to know, and the voters need to know, what specifically is he going to change to make things better? And I'll tell you right now, city-owned grocery stores is not the answer.
Again, Minneapolis GOP Chair Diane Napper, thank you so much for joining me and for the work I know that you do in Minneapolis. That will do it for this episode of Liz Collin Reports. We'll see you next time.